Hi, my name's Vince Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Mike Nelson, Extinction Beckons. This is an exhibition at the Haywood Gallery in central London, and I'd just like to share my thoughts about it really. I was first aware of Mike Nelson's work back in 2001, where I went to see Nothing is True, Everything is Permitted, which is an exhibition which really left an indelible mark on my imagination. It was this labyrinth of rooms with these pokey corridors, dark lighting, juxtapositions of seemingly unrelated objects, such as old travel guides and glitter balls, and it was just a very kind of creepy atmosphere, which really appeals to me. Rather claustrophobic, and I remember that very clearly. And so when I saw Extinction Beckons advertised, I thought, well, I must see that. And this show really is a kind of retrospective of much of his work over the last 20 or 30 years. The exhibition begins in this room. I think it's part of the I, Imposter series of works, and we have these high shelves filled with all kinds of objects you might find in a junkyard or reclamation yard, old wooden frames, doors, ironmongery, there's like a chandelier there. It was kind of like a bit like an IKEA store gone wrong, these high shelves filled with stuff. I overheard one of the other visitors saying, it's like looks like all this old stuff but without the dust. So perhaps an element of artifice there as well. But for me, the exhibition really gets going in the next room, which is this fascinating warren of interconnected rooms, labyrinthine spaces. You go through this door. It's called The Deliverance and the Patience. It has this kind of maritime overtone to it. And you go through this seemingly innocuous door, and you're immediately presented with these options. Shall I take this door? Shall I take this door? There's all these creaking doors everywhere. Some of the doors need a bit of WD-40, but it's just you go through these doors and you're confronted with these very strange, pokey interiors, tiny bars, which seemingly have been transported from the Far East. There's this rather faded glamour, seedy quality to some of these areas. There's this tiny roulette table in one of the rooms, an illicit gambling den perhaps. There's another room which looks like a shrine to something or other. And it's just this fascinating exploration of odd and strange spaces, which is utterly engaging and entertaining actually. It's really good fun just walking through these places, seeing which door to go through next, what are you going to be confronted with. There's even like this old-fashioned 80s looking travel agent's room. So this was a real highlight for me, this. You then go into this installation called Triple Bluff Canyon, which is this dome-like structure submerged in this sand dune with these destroyed tyres, these ripped tyres strewn about the place on the sand, and these half-submerged oil drums. It's almost like you walked onto a film set which is supposed to be Iraq or, some other Middle Eastern country. And you go through this narrow passageway. You've got to leave your bag with the guide by the entrance, and you're confronted with this dark room where photographs are developed in this eerie red light. Red seems to be a recurrent theme, I think, throughout Nelson's work in this exhibition. And it's a rather sinister space, almost looking like some kind of bomb factory, you might say. It's rather odd. It's kind of weird machinery hanging around. There's a door which you can't go through. You expect to go through it, but you can't. And you have to come back the way you came. It's rather claustrophobic, rather pokey. Kind of looks a bit like this. With loads of tyres around. And the tyres, interestingly, are from the M25 motorway around London. And I live on the outskirts of London, and I'm always on the M25, and you see like these tyres discarded by the side of the road, these shredded tyres. And Nelson, he makes this interesting thing where, each of these tyres has its own story, how it's got like that. And it kind of makes you think, So after Triple Bluff Canyon, you see what's called the asset strippers. It's old machinery from factories back in the 70s and 80s, which have been abandoned because of the decline in industry in the UK. And I believe this reflects something of Nelson's own upbringing in the Midlands. And perhaps this is the most political message in the exhibition, about how people's work should be valued, and the tragedy of the whole kind of industries just being no more, really. All these machines left to rust. And he gives them this monumental presence on these pedestals. I think the most striking one, which I think is actually incredibly beautiful as well, is this kind of an agricultural plough-like thing, which looks like these 4 spectacular suns on this iron girder. It really is a striking piece. And he has this kind of tool station filled with rusty nails, and he makes the point that these, quite often the doors or the structures which these nails held together, indeed the people who hammered the nails and manufactured the nails, are long gone, but these nails still tell their story. After this, you come to the stairwell of the gallery, and you come down the stairs and you see this great sight of this massive iron cage-like structure which look like concrete heads suspended in them. It's a rather eerie but grand and impressive sight. Something like this. As you walk around this, you are struck with the kind of depths of human misery, I suppose. These heads hung upside down, some of them, with all these grimaces. They're kind of these clown masks interspersed within this cage-like prison as well. And it's this kind of hellish existence that these figures are in. It kind of reminds me in a way of a contemporary Hieronymus Bosch artwork. I mean, it's this almost cartoon-like horror and violence. And very much the idea, the doors of hell are on the inside. It seems these heads, these figures stuck inside this network of this labyrinth of wire frames, seems very much they've made a hell of their own making, perhaps. Perhaps a comment on how humanity has, I suppose, messed up the world in a way. Extinction beckons indeed. You walk around this impressive steel structure with these heads, and you come to the amnesiacs. The amnesiacs are this fictional biker gang Mike Nelson has conjured up from his imagination. And they are suffering from PTSD. They were vets in the Gulf War, I think it is. And you don't see them directly, but you see their bicycle helmets, their jackets, their leather jackets, kind of bottles of beer, ashtrays, motorcycles, that kind of thing. Seemingly innocent, even playful items, but they're given a very sinister edge when these rather innocuous objects are suddenly seen in a terrifying light. Perhaps these flashbacks from the amnesiacs, the stuff they've been through in the war. For instance, there's this mask-like figure suspended from a hat stand, and you can't help think of suicide when you look at it. There's this grotesque face on the back of a motorcycle helmet. There are guns lying around. It's very strange, quite horrific, but also rather moving, actually. One of the parts of the exhibition which will stay with me the longest. We then come around the corner and we're confronted with Mike Nelson's study, which has been ripped out of his house, plonked in the gallery space, filled with odd items, science fiction books, and we have this distorted recording. I think there are two recordings played almost simultaneously of this kind of rather hateful far-right American commentators. And again, a grim and odd and unsettling experience. And then that takes you to the end of the exhibition. There are a couple of other smaller things dotted around. There's this sleeping bag filled with cement, suggesting the tragedy of homelessness. There are these fires with plastic flames. And you have to say the whole thing has got this post-apocalyptic feel to it. It feels like the end of the world, or after the end of the world. The remnants of civilization left. Not only physically and geographically and environmentally, but perhaps also spiritually as well. There is a spiritual depth, I think, in these works. And yes, there's left-leaning politics in there, but you don't feel you're being preached at the same time. I think Mike Nelson is more of a subtle artist, despite the size of these installations. He doesn't spell things out. There are these grey areas where the interest lies. Science fiction features heavily as well. So many allusions to great works of Philip K. Dick and others. You just see, Jules Verne dotted around, and there's all these books lying around, and you see it in the barren landscapes and the desolation of some of the installations. So yeah, Mike Nelson, Extinction Beckons. If you're not familiar with his work, check it out. He's a really great artist. This is a fantastic exhibition. I don't think it's on for much longer, so if you're in London, check it out. And thanks for watching, and all the best. Bye.